Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the ColdFusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome back to another Modernize or Die podcast, the CFML News Edition, December 8th, 2020. We're almost there, Brad. Almost into the year.
You know, you say welcome back, but what if we just never allowed our audience to leave? They were just stuck here like a Twilight Zone episode, you know? Let us out.
That would be fun. Interesting. Different.
You have to see every episode now.
That's why I don't let Brad make all the decisions. Most of them, but not all of them.
If I made all the decisions, this podcast would somehow run on CommandBox. I don't even know what that means, but we'd figure it out.
We probably could. I'm surprised you don't have a little CommandBox CLI for changing the slides in the background. Anyways, well, thanks to our sponsor, Order Solutions. Without Orders, we would not be able to do this. And one way you can say thank you back to Orders is by signing up for CFcast. We have new, free and paid content being released almost every week. And now it includes CommandBox Zero to Hero training series. So we've already dropped about 8 or 10 videos. There's over 30s in the series. And if you want to listen to me ramble on more and more, you can go check out that series on cfcast.com. So.
Nice. So the Zero to Hero training series, do you know if that's available to the monthly and yearly subscribers, or those ad hoc purchases on top?
It's added to the monthly subscription, which I was pretty surprised. So
wow. You
guys are getting a pretty hefty price tag of a normal training in virtual form as part of your subscription service. So that's pretty neat. Like I said, there's over 30 videos, and basically you'll listen to me talk, and I'll show you how to do something, and then there'll be hands-on exercises with step-by-step instructions so you can do it yourself. So it's very much the same content we do in person. We do the training. The only thing is you don't get the instant feedback if you've got a problem, etc. But you can try and reach out to us on Slack or via the support, and we'll try and help you out. But other than that, you get the same content, and yeah, with the subscription, that's a pretty good deal. So.
Sweetening the deal. Nice.
Yeah, we know that the CommandBox training series is a bit of a gateway drug to all the other great CommandBox stuff we have. So we might be just giving you something, but it's
You've
it's
heard
definitely
the phrase, the first one's free.
Yeah. And so that's new content on CFcast. We'll talk a little more about that shortly, and then. The other thing is, of course, we can't do this podcast without our Patreon supporters. And so, Brad, how many do we have now?
According to the show notes in front of me, we have 33 patrons providing 57% of the funding for a Modernize or Die podcast.
That's pretty dang cool. It's good to see so many of the community members stepping up and helping us with their hard-earned money. And we'll thank every one of them at the end of the show. So,
what if it wasn't hard-earned? What if they just won the lottery?
Then they should be donating more.
Yeah, that's right. If you won the lottery and you're out there on Patreon, step it up, people.
Yep. Come on. For sure. Okay, so let's get into the news. Other than the Olympic news that Brad just told me about, what was it, Brad?
Oh, yeah. Breakdancing is now going to be an official sport of the 2024 Summer Olympics. So this is one of the most pressing issues in the ColdFusion community today, I believe.
Yeah, it's like, how can we get these conferences back up and in person so we could have these competitions so we can figure out who we're going to send?
Yeah, like what's the best the ColdFusion world has to offer in the breakdancing category?
Yeah. Anyways, let's get to some real news.
So I didn't even see this this first one here. Hotfix released for ColdFusion 2021 date mask compatibility issue.
Yep. So Charlie blogged about it. So
yeah, I kind of figured they would just leave it. Everybody would have to shake out their code, but it looks like they reversed it.
Yep, and so I've got the screen share for those watching.
I guess we should explain what the heck we're talking about for people who missed the previous episodes.
Well, maybe we should go back and watch it, but no.
In ColdFusion 2020, well, let me back up. In all previous versions of ColdFusion and Lucy server, you could use an uppercase or a lowercase d to get the day of the week in your date masks for like the date time format function. But in 2021, that was changed where an uppercase D now stood for day of the year, and you had to specifically use a lowercase d for day of the week. And of course, there's a lot of Cold Fusion code out there that was a little sloppy about upper lowercase d, whatever, it all works the same, right? Well, not anymore. And as Charlie had pointed out, you could severely throw off your date calculations when suddenly, you know, the day part of your mask goes from like 5 to like 250, you know, because of the 250th day of the year. So
Yep.
that had the potential to be a bit of a nasty thing. So it looks like there's a hotfix jar.
Yep. And there's 3 steps to basically go through and implement it. And so you have the option with the JVM argument if you want to use it or not.
Oh, interesting. That's a little disappointing. I was kind of hoping they would come up with like a new unique letter to represent day of the year.
You already have the day of the year as a single Y. It's always been that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not like you can't do it then.
No, exactly.
Right.
They just changed it, and we see a couple of tweets later on from James Moberg where he actually went and found documentation in like the CF8 books. They all use uppercase D's in several places, etc. So if you're using code you copied from Adobe from previous years, it still happens. So, and as he says here,
so if you want the new behavior, you can add the JVM arg. Otherwise, this hotfix will put it back the way it used to work.
Yep. And like I said, it's pretty major when you're looking at just a normal date mask, you know, just month, day, year. If you're using capitals, you're now going to get weird stuff. So, good to see that they jumped on it pretty quick. And then again, Charlie's great for spelling out everything, and you know, he walks through every little bit. And so, perfect. Thank you so much, Charlie, and thanks Adobe for getting that out. And
I assume this hotfix will probably be rolled into the next or the first updater.
Yep, and then
but they need to get ColdBox working before they release the first updater.
Yeah, and then I know Scott's been working on that as part of the regex for it. So if you do want to go and update your code to work, so he says he should have it ready before maybe the end of the show. Should maybe sort of, but yeah, there's some regex and. I know that Charlie and Scott have been working on every podcast since we started talking about this. And there's a lot of edge cases with all the different
Scott
functions.
can only work on it during the podcast.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the movie where the bus has to go over 55 miles an hour where the bomb goes off. Scott can only work on the regex while the podcast is going. So we're just going to have to keep pushing through until he has it done. Otherwise, he has to wait until next week.
Yep. Okay, so hopefully that will help some people looking to move to 2021. We also have just a link that James Moberg, like I said, he was tweeting a lot this week. He shared a link to the 2021 Deprecated Features, which I thought was something worthy of sharing. So this shows sort of a table, and it talks about deprecated, unsupported, removed, and retired. So it is actually true that some things do get removed from Adobe Cold Fusion, because for the longest time, everyone says that backwards compatible is king, and they do that, but there are things that are removed, deprecated. So a lot of different things in here. A few of them you probably recognize, like flash forms, portlets, some of the report builder stuff.
Some will confuse the difference between removed and retired. Removed means the feature will not be available in Cold Fusion and cannot be used. Retired means it's not available as part of the default installation. Oh, you can still enable them. So basically, you can still manually install it.
So you can still use them if you need to. So the Flex
remoting, Blaze DS.
So when you install 2018, you don't get them unless you go play with the config files. Okay.
It's interesting. It's like if you really, really want it, you have a way to get it. I mean, 2021 is in a good position to be able to have that kind of thing in the same regard that Lucy has been for years, which is, you know, this terrible feature that nobody likes, but there's like, 50 people out there still using it hardcore. And you're like, okay, move it into a module extension, whatever. Let those people install it, but it doesn't have to be part of the core installation.
Yeah, so some of the big stuff here is the Cobra integration, the LCDS integration. Don't know what that is.
It's Corba.
Flex and Cobra's the old database stuff.
No, it sounded like you said Cobra, like the snake.
Sorry.
Stuff can have a few meanings.
Alexa, stop.
Alexa's here to iron it out for us.
Yep. So we have a Flex integration. the value fire now from the attribute on misfire of CF schedule.
What? Fire?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Where you at?
So I guess with CF schedule, if you have a
Oh,
misfire, you
fire now.
Huh.
Huh. There you know.
and the flash paper
On
format's
misfire.
been removed from CF document and CF presentation. So yeah, so this
Good
is a
stuff.
pretty good document. Some of the stuff in there I didn't know. I mean, I knew that things like the HTML edit format was deprecated, but I don't know if it's actually being removed or not. It looks like it has been removed in the 2018. Is that and unsupported? So unsupported means you can't use it, or
I think it just means that if it's
Yeah.
broken, they ain't fixing it. I don't even
Gotcha.
know what half the stuff is. Like, get K2 server dot count.
yeah.
Added in Cold Fusion MX. Deprecated in 2018. Like, what is that?
I'm not
Get
sure.
K2 server dot count limit. I don't know
So
what that is.
a lot of good stuff. I mean, if you are upgrading, then definitely check that out. Look for the 2021 updates and see what's different. And it's nice to see the different versions all listed in the same document too. So, like I said, James has been busy tweeting quite a bit this week, so that's pretty good. And
Actually,
then-
saw someone on the mailing list or Slack or something the other day. No, it was on Facebook, the Cold Fusion Facebook group, and they were using the Flash presentation feature, the CF presentation tag, which of course I believe was removed in 2021.
is it removed, retired, or
Actually,
deprecated? And
it
unsupported?
says retired since 2018.
So you could re-enable it if you want.
Interesting. The wording of the question implied that it just straight up didn't work.
Well, maybe they didn't know that they could re-enable it with some configuration changes.
I mean, the suggestions given to them in that Facebook thread was just to use the HTML output, which I think is sort of the obvious solution for that, assuming it supports the same features. I'll be honest. I remember seeing Ben Forda demo the CF presentation stuff way back when to the Kansas City user group. I don't think I ever actually used the tag. Always
Yeah.
known it was there, never used it.
There's a lot of tags in there that I never have used, but someday you may need them. Okay, so we have a bit of sad news too for the community. For those who knew Wil Genovese, he lost his battle with cancer this last weekend. So, just wanted to let people know, for those who might have run him into at different conferences we had. He's a big member of the community, and so our thoughts and prayers go out to his friends and family. We have a couple of blog posts remembering Wil. So the CF Web Tools team worked with him for a long time, so we'll be spotlighting it there. But we just want to bring that up as well. So sad news. He will be missed. Okay. Preside had a Christmas release this last week, so they released 10.13.0. Sounds like some Eric Simber releases, right? So they bring a trove of new features and improvements to Preside, and it is a pretty big list too, actually. For those watching, you can see.
Widgetception. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, we've got some widgetception going on, but lots of new features and improvements, and quite a few bug fixes too. It's kind of nice to see all the contributors they have as well here. So in their little description, you'll see that they've got quite a few. And
Yeah,
a lot
recognize a lot of those names.
Yeah, exactly. So good to
In
see.
fact, we have some Patreon supporters in that list.
Yeah, we do. It's good to see they're doing good and getting another release out there. So keep it going. Okay, now this week we also have something else pretty awesome. Github Universe is going on this week. For those of you who don't know, Github Universe is a 3-day conference from GitHub. It's going on. It's already started. I watched the keynote earlier while I was getting ready for the podcast. But it's basically 8:30 Pacific to about 2 p.m. Pacific. It's got 3 days, 4 sessions, over 70 different talks. Lots of great content. And that's available up on GitHub Universe. And the cool thing about it is you can just watch live on the site. You don't have to register. You don't have to give your information. You don't have to do anything. Wow. And there's 4 channels available. So after the podcast, go check it out. And the cool thing is about it is that we actually have all the videos will be freely available to watch the next day. So basically, they live stream today, and at the end of the day, they'll cut them all up and make them on demand for tomorrow. So if you miss something today, don't worry about it. If you've got some work to do for once, Yeah, you can watch that video on demand tomorrow once they cut them all up. So
I like their channels. They have the developer channel, they have the enterprise channel, and they have the play channel.
yeah,
So
the
it's
play's got
like,
some Raspberry Pi stuff in it for you.
yeah, so they have like stuff towards like, open source and project maintenance, stuff towards, industry experts, security, scalability, and then stuff that's just kind of like entertaining tutorials,
Yep.
performances. It's kind of cool.
Yep.
And then GitHub University. What is this?
Yeah, a little play on words pun there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a lot of it's, one of them they had about just working with your community, and they had stuff about, career stuff. So it's, more in general learning, not specifically development skills, but more soft skills and everything by the looks of it.
I wonder how much of stuff like this came about as part of Microsoft's acquisition of GitHub.
Yeah, because I know GitHub Universe has been around for quite a while. They were
Has
talking
it?
in the
Okay.
keynote that they've had 5 of them or something, but usually they're
Oh,
not
wow.
done streamed live. I'm
Yeah,
not sure
I
if they're in
can't say
person
I'd
or
ever
not.
heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of it before, but I couldn't remember if it was online only or in person. And we're limited to the number of conferences we can attend, but these online ones make it easy to get in there and grab what you need. And they're doing some pretty cool stuff with GitHub, and the keynote highlighted a bunch more pretty cool features. So
Makes you wonder if all these online conferences will make it so nobody wants to go back to in-person conferences when all the lockdowns are over, or if it'll like expose people to all this interesting online stuff so they'll want to go to the in-person one when they can.
yeah, I know a lot of people are enjoying the online stuff because they can get to see more and little bits and pieces, but everyone's dying to get back in person. Although I must say, watching TV and seeing something, pre-COVID, and I see a crowd and stuff, I'm just like, they're not distancing. I'm like, wait, what's going on here? So it's funny, like we're training our brains. It's gonna be weird when we do go to a conference, like there's people everywhere. It's like, why am I at Walmart?
Yeah. It
So,
is. It is weird how like your immediate reaction when you see that now is like, oh my gosh,
hmm
everyone's so close together.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Well, we have a couple of CFUG meetings, or I guess one CFUG meeting right now. The Seattle CFUG for hands-on deep dive into interacting with Thinkific API. That's going to be December the 9th at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific. It was originally scheduled in November, but they rescheduled it. So that is available up on meetup.com. And so I'll share the link for that here. So that's going to come up Wednesday night, tomorrow night for those watching live. And they have the video for the first session, which is more getting started with the Thinkific API. This one's more in depth, and they're going to do a lot more work on this one. So I'm going to be definitely watching those videos. And then next up, another online meetup through meetup.com is the online Cold Fusion meetup. Hosted by Charlie Earhart, and this week they've got some clown called Brad Wood talking about CommandBox.
Sounds boring. Jeez.
Yeah, you gonna go watch that one, Brad?
Probably not. I'm sure I have to wash my hair or do something more important, catch up in the Mandalorian. Yeah, so big thanks to Dan Wilson. He's been helping Charlie out, lining up speakers for the Cold Fusion Online meetup, beating the bushes. So the command box topic I've talked about before on the online meetup, but it's difficult to do like just an overview of command box anymore inside of a 15-minute window, just because there's so much stuff you kind of just can barely touch stuff. So I told him that I do a talk that kind of focused on just like the server aspect of command box. We could kind of dig into that and unpack more of it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the most common used popular feature of command box. Between Docker and deployments, I've got a lot more conversations that happen now on a regular basis of, I want to use command box for production. What does that look like? How does that work? Is that safe? Is it secure? Is it as fast? Kind of stuff. The answers are yes, 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 by the way. So I figured I told him I'd do a talk that just kind of just dug into the server stuff to help demystify some of that. I still run into people, they've been using command box for a while, even for local development. But they're not always aware of some of the really basic bread and butter features, like, being able to do a debug start and finding where the server logs are and things like that. So
Yeah,
I'll try to hit a lot of that. What's
Lots,
that?
I said there's definitely lots in there. You always learn something when we watch Brad.
If my into the box Latam session, it was kind of hard because I was trying to force myself to talk more slowly, since obviously I was presenting in English to a Spanish conference, trying to make sure everybody could get things translated or questions answered. But this will be in English to an English audience, so I'll just talk as fast as I want.
Yep. So be prepared.
Actually, I say it's to an English audience. It's probably not even true. I know that Charlie has a large swath of Cold Fusion developers that watch the online meetup.
Yep. Pretty much
It's also
everyone.
interesting the time that it's offered at. Dan had a whole bunch of data based on survey feedback that they had polled all of the online meetup people. What time is the most convenient time for you? And the voting was like very obvious. Like certain times of day, everybody was like, "Yeah, that time works really well." Because I kind of like questioned like, "Is that time really best?" And Dan was like, "Yeah, here's the graph." I was like, "Oh wow, yeah, that time's the best." Like, there's the data. Nice.
Yeah. I know that the survey was really
I like that.
interesting. There's some good stuff in there. So.
Anyway, yeah, that'll be fun.
Yep. And then if you missed last week's Online CF Meetup, how to build progressive web apps with John Wago, that was last Thursday, December 3rd. And the recording is up on YouTube already, so I'm going to share that in the show notes. So you can check that out. So pretty cool. And John is actually the author of Pearson's Learning Progressive Web Apps little website there. Yeah, I definitely want to follow up. I did not get a chance to see that one, so I'm going to watch that video soon. Because I used some progressive web apps. We did, Into the Boxes web app this year, and that's because everyone's sick of downloading apps for websites. So it's kind of cool. I want to see if there's any other features we should be using for next year's Into the Box, which we're still planning, depending on COVID. We'll see if it's going to be in person or not. So
Yeah.
Make some
It's nearly
decisions on that
impossible to
soon.
guess what it will look like.
For sure. Now, we didn't talk about this with you because you weren't here last week, but the Advent of Code 2020 started December 1st. So is that something you've been participating in the previous years or this year, Brad?
No, it isn't. I've always heard of it. I've never actually done it. Whoa, their website's interesting.
Yeah, they try and make it ASCII-fied.
Yeah, it looks like I just like clicked into a telnet terminal or something.
Yep. So so they basically have all these puzzles, and then every day of the month you have two puzzles. If you complete the first one, you can move on to the second one. And it was started quite a while ago. But yeah, so you can basically do it in different languages and everything. It's made to run pretty quickly, and even on old hardware you can run these. But yeah, so there's some tips and tricks. But it's just kind of fun. There's some easy puzzles, some hard puzzles, and there's some. I think there's a Slack group too about puzzles, and some people are talking about it in there. If you're in the CFML Slack, so
I don't understand the ASCII characters. Is that supposed to be making a shape or something, or?
I'm not even sure. I haven't looked at today's problem. So,
I'm just talking about just the homepage.
well, the homepage takes you to the first puzzle, I think.
Oh, I know, but I'm talking about the weird ASCII characters on the homepage. The 1 through 8 lines. It's just like.
Oh, well, maybe it is. Maybe it's meant to make a picture once you get through all the different days. Because once you get through 25 days, because right now we're on the 9th day, so
Yeah.
those other ones are complete.
I guess that's some people talking online. So you can solve these in multiple languages, right?
Yep.
Do they actually have some way that you like prove or confirm that you solved it, or is it just you do it on your own and you pat yourself in the back if you get it done?
That's a good question. Like I said, I've looked at them and looked at the questions and everything, but I've never actually gone through and done it because of the different languages and everything. I know Eric said he worked with CommandBox Task Runners last week to solve some. So I guess we should
There's
do
some
that,
more free
so.
time to play with it.
Yeah, I need to get in there. Okay.
Alrighty then.
Yep.
Advent of Code. Did we put the link in there? No,
Yep.
we didn't.
Advent of Code was.
Oh, we did.
No, not today yet.
Oh, not in the chat.
Yep. Just before we move on to the next one, we also have something from Vigorous about the date change. He's been bitten in the past because, as Charlie mentioned last week, all the date formatting type things basically translate to underlying Java formats. And so if you've done things where you use capital Y versus lowercase y, one is calendar year and the other is week year. So
Yeah, I think I've seen people hit that one.
yeah, so interesting. So because the week ends, so for the example is 2019-12/30, if you use capital Y's, it'll actually return the year of 2020 because the end of the week is 2020. The start of the week is not, but it looks at the end of the week, not the actual year. So lowercase everything, I think you'll probably be safe. That's probably the bet. Usually. Okay. We also mentioned the last couple of weeks about getting added in the Sentry system. I know that we've actually got a few people helping us out there. So Giancarlo started it, Brad chimed in, Wil DeBruin is a paid member, so he actually asked us for some help here. And so there's some responses here. So looks like we're in this community supported list now. We just need to actually get the icons.
There's a pull request that was sent. I had missed the link to it. It looks like it was closed with a comment that it was already added in.
Yeah, we had the pull request, but that happened after Wil already requested it, I believe, and he got it added because he's a paid member. They have a little bit of support, apparently. And so,
nice.
So we just need to get the icon added. So that's what we're missing, apparently, is the fancy icon to go with it. So, but we are on the community list now. So, anyway, if you guys check out that and maybe
is
make
the icon
noise.
part of the pull request?
That's what I was going to ask.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, because there were two things that we were asking for. One was just to be listed as a community SDK. The other one was that when you go to create a project inside of your Sentry installation, there's like a drop down that says what language are you using, and the other one was to be able to actually like add CFML into that, which is different than just the sort of documentation aspect. And I'm kind of curious if anybody chimed in on how to do that second one. I just don't want us to be like, yay, our community SDK was added, we're done here, because that was only half of what we were trying to add. Trying to read through, because it looks like the people who replied only answered the first question, which was how do we add this as a community supported. I guess maybe a good question is there does Sentry list community supported languages when you add a project, or do they only list like officially supported languages there?
I don't know.
Trying to look real quick at the Ortus Sentry installation. So when I click create a new project, it says projects allow me to scope events, blah, blah, blah. And there's popular, browser, server, mobile, desktop, all. They have a bunch of icons in here. So out of the box, they have little buttons I can click for C#, Elixir, Go, Java, Log4j, Django, Celery, PHP, Python. I'm curious if these are only their like first class supported languages.
Good question. I expect a full report on my desk by the morning.
I don't know, because it would be cool to be able to get us added there as well. But like I said, I don't know if they'll add just community supported things. I mean, these little buttons are sort of lame because at the end of the day, the project is added the same. It's just kind of defaults some stuff and gives you a link to the docs, I think. But
yeah, like Wil says, if you add Java as the language, you'll be fine.
I don't know what that means.
When you're adding your project.
Right, we don't want to be fine, though. We want to see ColdFusion listed. This isn't a matter of how can we get by with it. This is, hey, let's get ColdFusion listed. So, yeah, I mean, you can probably choose anything you want. You can probably choose Node.js, and it's still going to work the same. Like I said, it's mostly just to make it look pretty. But, like, I actually want to see CFML on this page showing the world, hey, CFML is a real thing that people use, and here's the logo of it. It's more about the optics. But yeah, that's what I'm curious is how do we... I'll add another comment on that and ask specifically, how do you get on this page? Because that is obviously different than where we've gotten ourselves added this far, which is great progress. But...
Yep. Well, while you figure
this...
that out, I'm going to jump on to the next thing. And let's talk about the CF cast content. So CFcast, as I mentioned this week, we've done a lot of work with the CommandBox Zero to Hero workshop. So if you don't want to subscribe, you can just purchase the training for $250, which is, I believe, less than half the price of the training normally. And you can see that we've released the intro, the welcome to the CommandBox Zero to Hero. We've done some scaffolding. We got a hands-on. We've looked at the CommandBox configuration, part 1 and part 2, MVC conventions, configuration files, adding a handler, view, and test. We have a second hands-on for you to work through. We also have the review of the hands-on, so talking about the links, view, and handler, creating new layouts, and then that hands-on as well. So we're going to go over the hands-on and the migrations, and then step 4 hands-on, which is the migration piece. That'll be released on Friday. So a lot of good content, and the CFcast team and Eric has been working hard. And now you can see what videos are coming out and when. So you can see the whole shebang. So there's still a few more hands-ons we're adding in here, but you can see all the content when it's spaced out and everything too. So they've done lots of work on the CFcast site lately. It's really good. And if you got any feedback, let us know. We're trying to make it a great experience for everybody using it, and I think they're doing a great job to make that happen. Okay, Brad. So update. Did you find what you needed to on the Sentry stuff, or?
I added a comment to the discourse forum asking how you actually get it added as a project in the application itself. We'll see if anybody replies.
Cool. Okay, so let's talk about conferences and training. So first up, we have Github Universe going on right now. So that's the 8th through the 10th, as we mentioned. Really cool. Check it out. GithubUniverse.com. Lots of great content. This week, we also have the Cold Fusion Security Training by Foundeo, Pete Freitag. So that's going to be on December 10th and 11th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and that is Eastern Time. So 2 days, 6 hours total. It's online, and it's going to be taught by Pete Freitag. You missed the early bird, sorry to say, but the cost is $600.
This isn't one of those Adobe early birds that lasts for like 10 years. It's over, baby.
It's
gone.
over, yep. And so the Cold Fusion Security Training, like I said, it's a great class. You learn a lot. And if you can't take the course on these days, he did record last year's training. You can purchase that. I believe it's the same price. So if you really want to, get the most out of it, try and attend this, the live session with Pete. Ask him all the questions. Work through the tutorials with him. I really like the setup. I think he gives you like a bank usually, and he has all these problems with it. So he shows you how to exploit them, and then he shows you how to fix them. And then you fix your bank, so no one can steal your monies.
Does the bank have real money you can steal?
I don't know. It worked too well. Otherwise, the course would cost a lot more.
Think of this, though. A security training that you pay a bunch of money to get into, but you have the ability to hack all the money back if you're that good, and you'd actually get it for free if you could hack all the money back out. Just think on that. That'd be awesome.
Cool. Okay.
You're not impressed with my idea?
Well, I'm just thinking of logistics. Like, if it's a security training, can you hack each other's bank accounts? Because obviously the security guys would be pretty locked down, you'd hope. And he's going to show you how to do it. It's like, here, I'll show you how to get into Brad's account, because he hasn't done this yet.
That would really raise the stakes.
Yeah.
To sign up for this training, you need to put your personal routing number in our secure server.
Yeah.
And hope you don't get hacked.
I'm sure that's not a long con or anything. Okay. So we also have going on right now the AWS reInvent conference. That is the 3-week conference. 3 weeks, yes. It's free, and it's 3 weeks. Trying to get my tongue moving on those. But it's Amazon's premium conference with everything you could possibly imagine, and probably some more that you couldn't even imagine from AWS. So that's at reinvent.awsevents.com. A lot of replayed content, a lot of live content. Register and check out all this great content. So a lot of stuff here. I'm sure they've got lots of announcements and new things, deep dives. But it is their big conference. They usually have 60,000 plus people attending it. I wonder how many they're going to get online, but definitely a great conference. And it's started already, but it's going through December 18th with, like I said, a lot of content is replayable. So on demand. So go register for free and get access to all that. Just in case you missed it, last week we had Into the Box Latam. So you actually presented. How was that presenting to a mixed language audience?
It was a little scary because I wasn't sure, if there'd be a lot of questions or if there'd be like questions in Spanish. I was feeling sick on the first day, so I ended up trading my spot all the way to the last spot on the last day. So as oftentimes happens with online conferences, the attendance had waned a bit. There was only a couple people asking questions during my session, and they were all, conversating in English. So it seemed like it worked okay. If anybody, had problems understanding, they certainly didn't say anything. But I was getting feedback and stuff, so I just tried to, not talk as fast. And of course, the introductions were all like in Spanish and stuff before and after. But it was really fun. I mean, it's definitely a different crowd. Not a lot of the same, typical faces you're used to seeing when you put on Cold Fusion online content. But I know that the ITB Latam team inside of Ordis focused a lot on, Central South American countries. I know Luis was on like radio stations down in El Salvador and stuff like that, pushing the conference. So like I saw people, talking about how they were excited to go play around with Cold Fusion and ColdBox. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty exciting thing, introducing, people in a world that's not very common with Cold Fusion to what we have to offer.
Yeah, and we made that free at the end in the spirit of the holidays, so we could get more attendees in and really share that knowledge. Yeah, because obviously price is a big barrier in the LATAM world. So we're happy that we were able to do that, and I guess they're pretty good turnout. I had over 150 attendees. So last year in person, I think they had about 100 in person. So we improved the numbers, and considering we weren't actually able to go out and in person, and they did a lot of work last year to get people to the conference. So it was pretty good. And then the content will be coming to CFcast in coming weeks. So I know they're going to work on getting that there, but it's kind of cool that we had English and Spanish and even had a Portuguese session. So we're really going multilingual with that.
Wasn't that Patrick Leal? Who was that? Who did that?
I don't know. Let me look on the list here.
I think it was Patrick Leal. I see him on our speaker list.
I'm searching for it. I think.
Yeah. Object-oriented programming with Cold Fusion, Portuguese language.
Pretty cool. Yeah, so that was our first Portuguese session ever.
I first met Patrick at one of the Las Vegas conferences, Adobe Cold Fusion Summit. If I recall, I think he was in our ColdBox training.
Very cool. So that content will be coming soon. Thanks everybody for attending, and it's a good experience, and I'm glad it's continuing to grow, and hopefully we'll be back in person next year and down in El Salvador or somewhere else in Latin America. So
I know I'm excited to maybe get a chance to actually go down to El Salvador for one of the in-person conferences in the future.
Yep. Okay, next up we had another, in case you missed it, Google had their Dev Fest Silicon Valley, and so that was last Saturday. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There was 2 tracks, 4 hours each, and they live streamed it on YouTube, and those live stream recordings are available already, so you can go check that out. There's quite a few different topics in there, so some are really CF related and others may not be that interesting, but it's free on YouTube, so go check it out. Zap through what you don't like, and definitely some good stuff there. So again,
DevFest.
More than enough content to go around, seems like lately.
DevFest just sounds funny. I had this vision of like piranhas in a lake just like devouring code or something. It's DevFest. I don't know why. It's just.
Yep. I'm not sure how often they do this, because it was actually on meetup.com, so I was wondering if it was this. Apparently meetup.com is unavailable to respond to my request right now.
Uh-oh. We have a message from Scott Steinbeck, which YouTube blocked as possible spam. Those sneaky regular expressions. What are you trying to do? Hack us, man? Trying to hack our chat with your regex. Meetup.com works fine for me. It must only be down.
Yeah,
in
it just
Bakersfield,
came back up
California.
right now. So, but yeah, so if you look there, it has a little more information about it if it loads. So it's just a public group. It's a Silicon Valley group. So I wonder if it's just a Google group, not actually a Google one. So interesting. But yeah, so there's a couple of different tracks here. Flutter, Firebase, progressive web apps, site reliability engineering. Interesting. And then growing your cloud application, TensorFlow, part of being back on a budget. So yeah, some good stuff there. So check that out. And then, of course, Adobe ColdFusion certification is now available online. Still got the introductory price offer at $4.99. Get it while it lasts. Maybe they'll put the price up when they update it for 2021 content. So, whenever they do that. But that's available. You can take that as well. Okay, a lot of good content and training. Let's get on to the next thing. Which is,
Oh my gosh, we haven't even gotten to the blogs, tweets, and videos of the week.
Nope, not yet.
Dude, we're like 45 minutes in. What have we been talking about?
I try to zap you through that Sentry stuff. I don't know.
Jeez.
So first blog post, we have
much
one
news.
by Wil Genovese. And so this one here is talking about event.buildLink query params versus path variables. And he's talking about how with rewrites turned on, sometimes your params may get written a little bit strange. And so long story short, if you're trying to do something with dates and you don't actually have a date, for example, it could be from date slash then nothing and then slash to date, and CommandBox get confused and think the from date is set to the to date because there was nothing in there, and it gets rid of empty items in the list, etc. So just one of those
Technically,
things.
that has nothing to do with rewrites. It's just STS URLs in general.
Yeah, and so
Yeah, I mean,
just
from what I read, I think you could boil all of it down to two main points, which was, first of all, when you use the, slash URL STS nonsense, you can't have empty values, and you have to have the handler and the action before you get to the key value pairs.
yep, that's
Basically what I
a
saw.
good summary. Yep.
But
Yeah.
that could catch you off guard if you're used to, how the traditional query string works. So
Yeah. Yep. But as usual, thanks, Will, for sharing that. So Ben Adele was busy. He's been working on converting some databases from MySQL 5.6 to 5.7. And so as part of that, he's got 3 blog posts we'll be talking about with JSON values. So MySQL 5.7 has some JSON support, which is pretty neat. And so the first blog post talks about incrementing JSON values in MySQL atomically.
atomically
Yeah.
incrementing.
And
Of
so
course,
it's
you know
hard
what
to
that means
justify.
when he says atomically incrementing.
Yeah.
It means you blow it up, like you split the atom. And
Well, I think it means no matter how many things you throw at it, it's still going to do it without getting a bad read. So that's the key
yeah,
here.
it means, if 100 threads all increment the number, you don't have thread safety issues where you have overlapping gets and sets.
Yeah. And so he was doing MySQL using MySQL's on duplicate key update syntax to do an atomic upsert, which is pretty cool. And so I'm not going to go into too much detail because there is some complexity in working with JSON. I'll highlight a couple of things here, like you've got these JSON extract and you've got JSON object. I can't highlight it; it goes white. That's weird. But
Oh, it's
yeah.
weird. I see it too.
Yeah, so some of the different functions in the that MySQL gives you, it's
I still
pretty
think
neat.
it's a little weird doing like JSON stuff in a relational database.
It's kind of nice though. Like we've got stuff that we use. We got a user profile, and if you're using CommandBox as your CMS, and you've got a bunch of stuff that one company wants to store about users that other people don't, like it's hard to justify creating a whole bunch more columns. And the MySQL stuff
you
is pretty
misunderstood me.
powerful.
I didn't say I can't imagine use case for JSON. I just said it's weird to do it in a relational database.
Well, that's what I'm
It doesn't
saying.
feel
though.
weird if we were talking about Couchbase, which of course Couchbase also has its own helpers for doing atomic increments and cast stuff. But
Yeah, I mean it's Yeah, as Scott says in the chat, I mean, the database is way faster to do that.
Is it?
Traversing it, yeah. I
Way
mean,
faster than what? Way
then having
faster
to
than
pull it out of Cold
Couchbase?
Fusion and to do it. Well, I mean, I think Couchbase would be just as, it'd be quick. At the
I mean,
database level, the cache level, it's always going to be better than pulling it out and manually going through it yourself.
Well, that's a straw man. I never said anything about pulling it out and manually doing it. I said it felt better to be using like a JSON document storage engine. So
Yeah.
I'm doing some stuff right now for some of our clients using Couchbase, using JSON documents, thousands of them, right? And I'm writing nickel queries that run actual like SQL like selects against JSON documents, but I'm not doing it in MySQL. I'm doing it in Couchbase because I mean that's
Well,
like
that's
the
because
focus.
I know the client and you can't do it in their database.
Well, because they're on SQL Server.
Yeah,
an old version
an
too.
older version, yeah. So
But
before that was added.
the point is, like, there's really kick butt, JSON support in a lot of this NoSQL stuff. I'm sure Mongo can do it as well.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It just feels weird to be doing it in MySQL. I don't know. It almost feels like, well, that's probably not true. I was gonna say, it almost feels like MySQL, like wants to, grab some of the NoSQL market. Maybe not.
Yeah.
I mean, because I can get incredibly performant selects that I run across, thousands of JSON documents using the nickel queries. In Couchbase, and it would actually be interesting to compare that performance. Is MySQL actually going to be faster, or is Couchbase faster?
I'm sure
than MySQL?
Couchbase is faster because that's its primary tool, but someone else might not want to have to spin up a whole new, document server just to add 3 fields and, 3 possible fields into a user profile when the database tools can do it. I mean, I know like Postgres has a bunch of things that you could do elsewhere, but it handles really,
Postgres
really
has
well.
everything.
It does pretty much.
Eric Peterson is like our internal, hey, Postgres can do that guy at Ortus. Anytime we're like, hey, we want to be able to sort by semantic versions, Postgres can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, Postgres is pretty good. But so that one there, he looks at atomically incrementing. We also had another blog post by him. I'm going to jump to them so they're all relevant. Dealing with the column types, and so this blog post here, he dives into a little more about that. And so, yeah, caution, this should have always been a normalized set of tables he talked about. But yeah, so just looking at different ways. So like I said, this is more of a set of blog posts that you should probably read together. But he's got some nice little helpers too, to try and clean up some of the syntax and make it more object-oriented and more readable. So definitely check it out if you've thought about maybe doing JSON. Yeah. And Scott also said make sure you put everything, column names lowercase, because otherwise you might live to regret it.
The lowercase column names. Got
Yep,
it.
so we got 3 great blog posts there for Ben on JSON stuff.
Can we start using the phrase tweet storm to refer to like when someone has a lot of blog posts or tweets? I just like that.
Tweet storm. I mean, I
JSON
know people.
tweet storm, Ben the Dell edition.
Yeah, well, it's not really a tweet. Well, I guess he did tweet about the master, but anyways.
Well, I was thinking about it when you're talking about all the James Moberg tweets, but I just didn't
yeah,
see it.
no, that could definitely be seen as a tweet storm. Although he wasn't like violent like some of the storms I see on Twitter.
Yeah.
More of
Blog
a
storm.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yep. And then next up we have something from Pete Freitag. So talking about Java LTS version roadmap and guide. And this catches a lot of people off guard because he's like, are you using an LTS version of Java or the latest? And people are like, well, what's the difference?
You're like, doesn't the L stand for latest?
Yeah. So the weird thing
Wow.
with Java is the long-term version. They have long-term versions that do last up to 5 years, I believe, and then a couple more years with extended support. But the trick was when they started releasing these new non-LTS versions, they were releasing like every year, right? Because like 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, and not LTS.
Yeah, he's
And one of
saying
them
it
would.
might
Sorry.
be
go
until
ahead.
Java 17 that it's another LTS version.
Yeah, because
Wow.
that was the weird thing with the non-LTS versions, which some of our customers ran into. It was like the version would be released in March, and then it would basically end of life in September, and the new one would start October.
Yeah, I mean,
Basically.
it takes government clients longer than that just to approve it. And you're like, oh, never mind. It's already out of support. Next.
Yeah, so that's the weird thing. Yeah, so looking here, most of them are only supported for 6 months, and there aren't many patches of anything. And yeah, basically the next version happens right after it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, here. 14 was released in March 2020. Support ended in September, which happens to also be when 15 was released. So basically, yeah, very, very quick turnaround. So if you're using a server, make sure you're using an LTS version, otherwise you're going to struggle.
Which right now is basically Java 11.
Yep, until we wait for 17.
And aren't we up to update 9 on Java 11? Let me use my CommandBox Java search command. Yeah, JDK 11.0.9.1 is the latest OpenJDK version. That's good information because, yeah, a lot of people get confused about what is the actual long-term supported version of Java. And it almost feels weird that it's still technically Java 11, even though that feels so long ago now in Java years.
Oh, we're on, was 8 the previous long term
Yes.
before that? Yeah.
Yeah, 8
So
was LTS before that.
Yeah, and that's why Adobe stuck with 8 for so long before they moved to 11, etc. So, okay, next up, as we mentioned, remembering Wil, and so a nice little piece here by CF Web Tools about him, and so if you guys want to learn a little more about him, a little bit there. So, again, sad news that he lost his battle with cancer. Okay, so. Next up, we have the blog post that Charlie mentioned about the hotfix for 2021, the date mask compatibility issue, which we already touched on before. So we won't do that one again. But there is one from Fusion Reactor about load testing with Locust. Have you heard of Locust, Brad?
No, I missed this post. Looks like it came out yesterday. I've used a number of different load testing tools, but not Locust.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting. It looks pretty simple to get started with it.
Oh, locust.io. Is this an online service?
Yeah, I liked it by the look of it because it's got pretty graphs. You know, it must be good.
There's something I'd used a while back that was called like flood.io. And it was basically like a scaled out online version of like JMeter instances that you could do load testing for like from the cloud, and they would spin up, EC2 instances. I wonder if this is similar.
Let's see.
I like this. I mean, because the thing is, a lot of times, and I've definitely hit this, you run into a limit of how much load you can push from just a local JMeter instance. You hit network, bandwidth limitations, you hit CPU limitations. And if you really want to, test some cloud deployment and you want to say, like, what does 1,000 users actually look like? It's really hard to get 1,000 users being pushed from a local thing. Like I said, I've had my network adapter max out on the bandwidth it can carry before I got into the maximum amount of users I want to be able to simulate. So these cloud services are able to scale a lot better. Now, what I'm curious is if Locust is free or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it looks like the tests are running here are pretty simple, they said, but it's 1 dB core per request, but this is a low-powered Fargate cluster running CommandBox with CF Wheels app. The containers only have 2 gigs of RAM, 1 CPU unit, but you can sort of see the effects the Fusion Reactor is showing here. So
yeah, you see where the CPU climbs up and then it just hits the top. That's usually when your performance starts to go. As soon as the CPU saturates, then you look at the request times and they go. Ba-goo! That's usually unless you have some sort of concurrency or locking issues, that is always the guaranteed point in time where your performance starts to nosedive is when the CPU saturates.
Yep. So, I mean, I said this is a simple example and everything, but yeah, it gives you another option, right? So maybe worth looking at.
No, that's nice. See, I always performance test with Fusion Reactor. Because quite honestly, how the heck do you know what your app's doing otherwise? It's like performance testing with your eyes closed. I always use Fusion Reactor in combination with my performance test so I can actually see what it's doing.
Yep. Okay. Next up, we got a little blog from Dominic Watson. He's talking about Get's HTTP request data as built-in function, and you can get headers, method, and body. Apparently the body part has issues. Ben Adele blogged about this like 10 years ago or something, but I guess Dominic also mentioned he found another issue. Every time you call this, Lucy will reread the input stream of the request to populate the body. So every time
interesting.
You do it.
I haven't read the Java code in Lucy that does this in a few years, but I have reviewed the Java code that does this. And I thought it explicitly did the opposite. At least at one point in time, there used to be all this logic because it wrapped the HTTP servlet request, and it would only read the request once and then it cached it. I would have sworn to that, which is very interesting that this blog post is claiming the opposite. I'm curious if this is a bug or if it just never worked or if I just misread the code back when I had reviewed it.
Yeah.
Because I thought you could call that function a million times, and the first time it reads it all in and then caches it, and then all the subsequent times just uses that.
I don't know. So there's a ticket there. You can go check it out. And
I know they had put in some a CommandBox pull request related to this as well, because there's several event request context methods inside of CommandBox that use the get HTTP request data method behind the scenes. And yeah, if it is parsing that multiple times as he's suggesting, and you hit that multiple times in the course of a request, that could be a lot of overhead. But yeah, I'm really curious about that, since my understanding was literally the opposite of what Dom is saying was happening. But like I said, I haven't read through that Java code in years. Maybe it's changed.
Yeah, James was saying that CF9, after reading it once, it was gone, which was kind of weird.
Well, from my understanding, the underlying servlet request object, this is part of the J2E spec. It literally closes the input or output stream, whichever one it is, after you've read it. Like, you can't read it more than once, which is one of the reasons that I thought it was actually a requirement that Lucy and I assume ColdFusion wrapped that request object so they could only read it once and cached it, which is why I'm a little confused, because I literally thought it was impossible for you to read it more than once per the servlet spec. So I'm really interested in that. Now, maybe there's additional processing that's not just the raw reading of the request, then that's what's being performed more than once. I'd have to dig into that to see. But yeah, I mean, I would have bet money that you literally were incapable of reading it more than once, at least from the servlet. Which is why this is so interesting.
So. Okay, well, we expect a full report next week on that, Brad.
Yeah, I'll get right on it.
So we have another, I believe, member of the Adobe team blogging about some of the new features in ColdFusion. So the MongoDB integration with CF2021. So if you guys are looking at CF2021 and want to look at using Mongo, NoSQL database, you can find out all about it here. So it's a nice sort of walkthrough explanation. So very cool. We also had a little blog storm from Andy Peterson. So he mentioned he's trying to blog a little more now, or get started on that. So it's good to see more people in the community blogging. And so one of the blog posts he talked about was updating Lucy as part of a vulnerability alert. Painless, or as promised, or not. And so, long story short, he was on 4.5 on one of his old servers and was kind of scared about upgrading, as sometimes you might be. And was wondering how painless it really was. So basically, he swapped the jar file, did a couple little things, and everything ran smoothly for him. So it was really simple, really easy. Obviously, he wasn't using any code that was affected by any differences or whatnot in there. So that was good, but it was pretty painless, and you can read about his experience on the blog. And he has a couple more blog posts in there as well. And so another one was talking about running Adobe ColdFusion 2018 and 2021 concurrently. So I remember when I used to give sessions on this before CommandBox about how to install multiple versions of a server on your machine.
That used to be a lot of work.
Yeah. So he's showing you how to run 2018 and 2021 using WS config tool for IIS. So if you want to walk through here, he can show you how to get that up and running. So he's doing that so he can start playing with 2021. So nice guide there, and he does include the gotchas, which is the most important thing when you're doing these, because you assume everything goes smooth, but those hard lessons learned are the important ones. And he also actually did a blog on AWS S3. So I told you, a bit of a blog storm here. And so after watching Brian Klass's conference session at CF Summit 2020, he wanted to go play with AWS S3. So again, I really like the fact that he shows you with nice pictures about how to get, adding the credentials in the ColdFusion administrator, where to put them, how to do it, etc. So it shows you how to go and get that all set up. So if you want to play with that setting and you're not sure where to get started, that looks like a great blog post as well. Okay. So now let's get back to the tweet storm. It's not really a tweet storm, but James did tweet some good stuff this week. So James Moberg tweeted and talked about how the first 6 examples of date format mask attribute in 2013's ColdFusion 8. Is it really from 2013? I thought ColdFusion 8 was way, way, way older than that. Maybe their book is that old?
Asking what year it came out in?
Yeah, well, he has the 2013's ColdFusion 8 web app. I mean, I'm pretty sure
The
that was from
Wikipedia
like
page for
2006.
ColdFusion has the lists.
Yeah.
ColdFusion 8, July 30th, 2007 is when ColdFusion 8 came out.
Okay. See, I knew it was pretty dang old. Anyway, so he's just saying like the first 6 examples are all using the uppercase characters, etc. So that would do some weird things for sure. So, you meant ColdFusion 9 whack, not CF8. Okay, James, I'll like your response. But anyway, so examples that show if you're using the official documentation, you might get bitten by that that mask issue, and maybe apply the hotfix if you're updating to 2021. So I didn't put all his tweets in there, but if you follow James Moberg, you will always find some interesting things on Twitter about ColdFusion. Actually, there was one more. This one I didn't know if you'd seen. So I guess it was a storm. So true and false and yes and no are not always interchangeable in ColdFusion. Did you know this? So,
Heresy!
So apparently, some of the attributes. I'm gonna blow this up a little bit here. So get as binary doesn't take true or false. It only takes yes or no or auto or never. So some of the attributes that you can have on certain functions do not think yes and no is the same as true and false.
So the question is that by design, or is that just a bug and we need to put in a ticket so they can fix it?
Exactly. So
interesting.
Yep.
Like Lucy, I know there's like a built-in helpers that do things like take an arbitrary input and turn it into a true or false. And anywhere in Lucy that accepts that always uses that same helper, so you get the same behavior. I assume Adobe ColdFusion has something similar. And when you see a behavior like that, you assume that in that particular tag they didn't use a generic helper. They just have some hard-coded list of values they check for. But the inconsistency is definitely not a good thing.
Yeah, interesting. And back to James's comment about the date mask. When Ben Forta used to blog, he used to blog with the capitals, and so he blogged in 2013 about the CFWAC, which was released earlier. So, okay. So that's done with our blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. I actually had to trim a few out because we got too many. So I just try to give you the better ones. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If not, follow hashtag CFML or hashtag ColdFusion. You can keep up on all the great content coming out. So next up, find a job. Get CFML Jobs has 4 new jobs this week. So if we look at the site, you can see we have looks like one job posted 2 different days. It's in Montreal, Quebec, so it's got a little French flavor. It's a full-time position there. We also have a ColdFusion application developer in Hyderabad, Telangana in India, and then we also have a ColdFusion and Lucy developer in London, England. So we got some more jobs there, and there was quite a few in the week before as well. A lot in November. So if you're looking for a job, get cfmljobs.com. Will help you out. Otis did make a hire, I believe, with our job posting that we have on our site, but we're still looking for people. We're looking for good people. So if you'd like to apply, we're still accepting applications, and we'll be in touch about an interview and go from there. So the U.S. time zone availability is a must, and the U.S. citizen or resident or work visa is a must too. But join a great team with lots of smart people and get to work on some fun and interesting projects. Not all of them legacy hell, but we definitely help a lot of customers get out of that. So you can check that out on autosolutions.com/about-us/careers. Okay, so next up, ForgeBox module of the week. So this week we have another one from Matthew Clemente. It's like he's like a permanent fixture on the show, isn't he, Brad?
I see what you're doing there.
Yep. Okay. Well, this week he showed us, or actually he added this a couple weeks ago, but this week we're going to talk about the Twilio Lookup CFC. So this is a CFML wrapper for the Twilio Lookup API, and that allows you to look up, information about phone numbers, including region-specific formatting, carrier information, caller name. There's a few functions in here, so you can do caller and carrier or a phone number. So pass in different information and get that back. And so pretty simple. All you need to do is go to Twilio Lookup API and get your account SID and auth token, which can be found on your console. And then once you have those, then you can go ahead and use this little module. So again, all of Matt's API stuff is built on top of the API framework built by John Berquist. So we appreciate his help in getting that set up. It really helps when all the APIs are all so consistent. So definitely pretty cool. Okay. So next up we have our VS Code hint, tip, and trick of the week. I know Brad's not going to like this one. It's NPM.
Ooh. Sorry, what are we talking about? I just read it NPM.
VS Code hint, tip, and trick of the week. The extension we're going to be talking about today is the NPM package. So this one is a little package by eGamma, downloaded over 3 million times, or installed 3 million times. That basically gives you some NPM support inside of VS Code. And there is some built-in support now with VS Code, just so you know, but this does add a little bit extra. And so what it does is it looks at your scripts written in your package.json, it looks at your dependencies, and then actually does some validation. And so you can actually see errors in your warnings tab now to see if you have dependencies that you're not using, or if the version you have is invalid or not. So there's some certain things there, but also it gives you the ability to run scripts too. So when you run a script, you can rerun the last script, run one of the scripts from there. Very similar to the way we do with the CommandBox and the CommandBox VS Code extension. But
Yeah, I'm going to say we have a CommandBox code extension that I think also does this. I'm really curious about this feature, a report on modules that are defined in the package.json but not installed.
Yeah.
That could be a useful feature to have for CommandBox as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
you and I have both had the scenario where we do a git pull on a client repo, not aware that somebody added a dependency into the box.json, and then we go to pull up the app and it's broken, and we're like, oh, what's going on? And it's like, oh, well, you need to rerun box install to pull down your latest modules. And we've even talked about, could there be some way that we could get something that would pop up and be like, hey, idiot, your box.json has new stuff. You need to install it so the app can work. Because that's sort of a missing piece right now in the Cold Fusion world as well.
Yeah, we talked about doing like a box lock, so you could see if the version you actually have installed, when you do a box install, would create a lock file, so you'd know which versions were actually installed, and see if that matches up with what's in the package.json, and lots of different things. So.
Well, that's a different feature, but yes, we have talked about that.
Yeah,
shrink wrap, I thought was the name, wasn't it?
Yeah, shrink wrap.
Feature.
But I mean, basically, features like that would allow us to know if something's changed between the box.json and the package, the lock file as well. So there are lots of different ways to do it, but I think
traditionally
it would be good.
The problem has always been when do you detect it and where do you notify the user of that?
Mm-hmm.
In the past, we've detected and notified people on server start, for lack of a better place to put it, like the .env module. By default, if you have an env example file with keys that aren't in your env file, your server start will blow up and go, hold on, wait a minute, you're missing some junk that's probably isn't going to work right. But the benefit of an extension is it can be maybe some overlay or pop up right there in your IDE that you see that says, hold on, you're missing something. I don't know which is better, but that's a little bit nicer maybe than just preventing the server from starting. But we've never had a great way to notify the user about those things.
Yep. So it's definitely a good idea. So it's a good little package for you if you're using NPM in your apps. You can get NPM installed from VS Code, and you'll even have a little task, a runner tab inside VS Code. We can see all your scripts, and you click a button to run it, or even debug it too, which is kind of cool. So,
or better yet, implement them all as CommandBox scripts in your box.json, delete this extension, and install a CommandBox extension. Solved.
Yep, and I was waiting for you to say that because I knew you would. I don't know why, but Brad seems to like doing everything outside of NPM.
Doesn't have to be outside
Anyways.
NPM. It just needs to be inside a CommandBox.
Oh. Well, we could recreate everything and just make a task runner that does an NPM run, but that wouldn't be as fun, would it? So.
You can create
Okay.
a command alias. There's a lot of people that'll create aliases in CommandBox for common stuff like Git. There was someone on Slack just the other day that creates aliases to do their Git commands. They don't actually have to ever touch the Git CLI. They just hit a CommandBox alias and it runs it for them. So
That's
I'm sure
pretty
you can do
neat.
the same thing for NPM.
Cool. So Scott did complete a regex. I'm going to put that in the show notes. He's already got it in the chat for those who are watching. So
In
thanks
other
for
news,
that.
Scott now has 2 problems.
Yep, and he is using a Java pattern matcher with that regex, so he has it because it has a look behind. So make sure you take care of that. But if you want to try it, go for that. Looks pretty good. So if you're moving 2021 and you want to have the new update, that can help you look for any use of, well, not any use, but the date format, date time format, or time format. Wait, is there a difference between date format and date format in the first 2 pieces, Scott? Maybe I'm losing my mind. Or should one of them be time format?
Well, you just have date format twice in there. Scott! See, he
So-
does have 2 problems.
Regex. Good times. Okay, so last but not least, we're at the end of the show. We have to thank our Patreon supporters because without them, we wouldn't be able to do this show. And we would have less funding for things like CommandBox, ForgeBox, ColdBox, ContentBox, and TestBox, which Audis does work hard to try and give you all the box products you'll ever need, including a couple of new ones, which we talked about. And I think next week we're going to talk about another one. So, Stashbox. But a lot of great products coming out all the time. So, is it your turn or my turn, Brad? Guess
Oh, I
it's-
don't know. It's probably my turn. I'm just
So-
busy doing stuff. I responded on that Jira ticket about the request body with some links to the servlet specifications. I did confirm that the servlet spec only allows you to read the input stream of the request body once. It'll throw an exception on subsequent reads. So it must be some other processing after that that's getting done more than once. But anyway, that's what I'm doing while you're having the podcast. Don't mind me. No, I can read the Patreon list.
Yep. So, thank you, everybody. Here we go.
All right, Ben Dedell, Brett DeLine, Carl von Stetten, Charlie Earhart, Dalig, Dan Carr, Daniel Garcia, David Bellinger, Didier Lesnicki, Don Bellamy, Edward Cabezas, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Giancarlo Gomez, Jan Yannick, Jason Diger, Jeff McLean, Jeremy Adams, Jonas Erickson, Jordan Clark, Joseph Lamry, Kai Koenig, Laskma with the T last name that I always butcher, Mario Rodriguez, Matthew Darby, Matthew Clemente, Mingo Hagen, Patrick Flynn, Ross Phillips, Scott Steinbeck, Sean Oden, Stephen Klotz, Synaptrix, and Yogesh Mathur.
Yep. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate all the support. And thanks to everybody else who supports Audis in other ways with CF casts, pull requests, issues, or just general good feelings.
General good feelings. Thank you for sending me your good feelings. I like it when you send me money, but your good feelings are also appreciated.
Yep, for sure. Hey, these days, just any conversation is pretty good, right? If it's not
Yeah,
like
I
people
know.
locked in your own house.
Yeah, just being able to see someone else's face. Oh, you exist.
Yep, exactly. Virtual 6 feet breaking. Anyways, well, you guys all have a great week, and we'll see you next week. And don't forget, our Christmas special on the 22nd might have a special guest.
Ooh,
So you'll have to...
might have a special guest, he says.
Might have a special guest. The
They're on
best
the
thing
edge of
is, there'll be
seats.
one less of us to host the show.
I mean, I
Anyways.
thought we were all in one room. We're all so close together. We're all just in the same room, right? We take turns behind the desk.
Don't say that too loud. The COVID police will get us.
Jeez. Get a warning from the health inspector.
Yep. Okay. Well, you guys have a great day and a great week, and we'll see you next week.
All right, later, guys.
Bye. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.